What's going on, everyone? Doing a little midday break, as I'm calling it, chatting with you guys. No podcast tonight. So I want to come and talk about a couple things with you guys today. Been sitting here in the office all day, get some work done, and I wanted to take a quick break and talk to you about what's going on here in the state of Indiana, what's coming up, and then also hit on a few questions that I get on a regular basis around two topics. So pro staff and catch photo release process. So I'm going to talk about those things and kind of what's going on here in the state like I usually do. I want to jump on here. What's up, Brock? Thanks for jumping on, my friend. Do me a favor, guys. Make sure to share this. You know, a lot of people are probably at work right now, but they can watch it afterwards. I think some of the information in here is definitely going to be useful, especially around the pro staff thing and the CPR thing. Again, I get these questions a lot. And then if you guys have any other questions, I'm good for about an hour. So I'm happy to talk to you guys. If you don't have any questions, it probably won't be that long at all. But feel free to throw those questions in the comments. And like I said, like always, please do me a favor and share this so that we can get this stuff out there to people. Help grow Hoosier Kayak Bassin so we can help grow this sport and this community and promote these anglers and these great series that we have here in the state. I don't know if you guys are watching Bassmaster right now. I know I have been all day. It's on one of my mini screens here on the desk, and it is, wow, phenomenal. I think leading it right now, it's like 30-some pounds, day one, a little over halfway through the day. I'll look here when it scrolls. Well, here it is right here. I can just share it with you guys. Yeah. Bassmaster Classic. I know it's not kayak fishing, it's not in Indiana, but hey, we all love chasing green bass, and there are none bigger than what you see in Lake Fork. It's been pretty good out there today so far, even with not so great conditions. I mean, you see 36th place is like 18 pounds with Adkins there, so unreal day for those guys out there. And I'll keep an eye on that and share anything that comes up. So Brock House says GPS coordinates for Monroe. Let's talk about Monroe. There's a tournament going on there today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Grassroots Bass Yakking. Among many other tournaments going on, we'll talk about some of those here in just a second. In fact, let's go ahead and get into that. And then I will answer your question a little more directly there, Brock. So don't worry, I'm not completely avoiding it. So let's go to Tournament Central on HoosierKayakBassin.com and let's see what we got going on this week. Go to the live leaderboards here. Of course, we still have the SIAC charity event still going on, the Indiana Kayak Anglers Big Bass Hunt. Then you have Grassroots Bass Yakking with 4 events this week. Monroe, Bluegrass, Raccoon, and West Boggs. And then I don't have it up here. I'll get it up by the end of the day. You also have SIAC's Patoka Lake event. So let's take a look real quick at what's going on at Monroe, since that's the first one there, and Brock asked about it. So we'll pull this up here. And we got, that is not the correct tournament. That is Sullivan Lake. And Justin Staley last week. So I need to update that as well. All right. So let's go to Tourney X and let's find it there. Let's see here. Grubby. And let's go to, where's Monroe? Raccoon. Grubby Monroe. All right. Here we go. Live leaderboard Monday. We got 2 anglers fishing, Troy Riggins and Tyler Atwell. Tyler leading it right now. He's got an 18. Good looking fish right here for Monroe this time of year. And 15 and a 13.75 for 46.75. Troy hasn't posted anything yet. Looks like he's checking Tourney X. He's live on there right now. Maybe he's getting ready to post something. I don't know. That would be cool. So yeah, Monroe going on right now. I I don't know what to expect for this one, guys. I really don't. We've got some things going in our favor. We got a full moon. We got long days now. We're well into April, almost to May. These fish, they got to move up at some point. But with the weather conditions that we have, where we get a warm day and then drastic cold for 2 or 3 days, and then a warm day and then drastic cold for 2 or 3 days, it's really got these fish messed up. GPS coordinates, I don't know what to tell you, Brock, because I really haven't been out there a whole lot this year. I can tell you they're on some of the similar stuff, but getting them to bite has been very difficult. What I would say for anglers right now is really cover a lot of different water. It doesn't so much matter which end of the lake you're in per se, or section of the lake. You could pretty much launch anywhere, but I would be covering water. And if you have electronics, not stopping until you see a pile of fish. And then once you do, trying several different tactics to get those to bite. If you don't have electronics, or if you do and you're just not seeing fish, I would just be covering water. Reaction baits always work this time of year. It's not always the deal, but you're bound to get at least a couple, 2, 3 bites on there. Of course, finesse, everyone knows you can throw the Ned rig, you can throw a drop shot, shaky head, and probably bounce a couple that way too. And that's what I would be looking at. I would imagine the water's falling at Monroe. Now, they've been dropping it from about 1/4 of a foot to a little more than that, a little less than that a day for some time now. They're getting it back down to full pool. In fact, let me look real quick for you guys. And I am going to spend a little bit of time talking about Monroe just because it's the biggest event right now. We got the most people signed up for it. Monroe Lake water levels here. Let's pull it up if I can find it. Let's see here. And it's my favorite lake, so I just like to talk about it. Yeah, so it's gone down another 3/10. No. Yeah, a little over 1/4 again. They got it down to 540.38. Full pools 538. And so it's coming down. So these when the water's coming down, right? These fish they have nothing to kind of entice them to move up, other than weather conditions. When you have rising water on Monroe, those fish follow that up. And they're going to spawn really shallow in the bushes, around the tree laydowns, in the back of the pockets, on stumps, that sort of stuff. With the water coming down and it being regular pool, we haven't had that huge fluctuation like we've seen in years past. 2000 from like 2018 on, right? 2011 was a crazy year, if I remember right. But when we not having that high water, you're going to be looking at maybe a little bit steeper banks they might be positioned on because of all this fluctuation in the weather, and the water not being high. They may kind of stage in those areas. So you're not going to be looking at those flat gravel banks like you typically would probably. Not saying that they won't move up on there. Definitely they could, but that's kind of where I would be starting, is maybe those steeper angled banks, and covering water and just seeing what you can find. That's those stumps that are, in that 5 to 6 foot range. And this is on the fast side, right? You go on the slow side, which is going to be, north of the causeway there. Those fish are always pretty much shallow. They do get deep in some of the holes, in the summer and stuff, but those fish, generally speaking, are pretty shallow, and that stuff's a little bit more obvious. If you like fishing that, the water's going to be a little bit more stained. It's really not too bad because we haven't had much rain. So yeah, I know that's not exactly GPS spots there, Brock, but that's what I would be doing. I'd be covering a lot of water. If you're thinking about going out and practicing, I wouldn't spend too much time in any one area. I wouldn't be worried about catching fish. I would just be worried about covering water and seeing if they'll hit maybe your reactions baits, and seeing if you can find some piles of them on those typical staging points and on those bluff walls. With grubby, right, you don't have a size limit either. So throwing finesse baits, Ned rigs, that sort of stuff out on the bluff walls and targeting the spotted bass that are in there in crazy numbers, is not a bad idea, especially early to get your limit. And the other thing with that is too, usually if you catch one spotted bass, you can catch multiple spotted bass in that area. There are some bigger ones, but generally speaking, those are going to be your 8 to like 13-inch fish. Austin saying, definitely not going to be flooded like last year. Yeah, absolutely. No flooding whatsoever here. We're up. The water's up about 2 to 3 foot at best. And yeah, it's just not that at all like we've seen. Could they still be in the buckbrush? Yes. Could they still be on some of those shallower flats that we see them get on when the water's high? Yes. But I don't think that's the main deal. Haven't been out there though. I'm gonna go out there tomorrow though. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna go play around. I'm not fishing hard or anything like that. I'm just gonna go kind of play around. And then Monday I'm fishing the grubby event there. Sunday fishing Patoka Lake for SIAC. Make sure to get signed up for that, guys. A lot going on there at SIAC. They announced 100 amp hour battery from Bieno Power for Angler of the Year. This event is sponsored by Shady Rays, so they're giving away like 6 pairs of sunglasses, top 3 plus 3 random draws. A lot of cool stuff going on at SIAC right now. So make sure to check out for that. I know they're going to be announcing some other stuff as well. The championships already got some great prizes. So another great series or club to get involved in. Signups for that end tomorrow I think it's by 7 Eastern. Double check. Make sure to look at Turniacs and double check on that one. There's already like 18 or 20 people signed up for that one, so it should be a good event. In fact, I'll just look real quick to tell you how many people are signed up. Let's see here. I can do it quickly enough to not hold you guys up too long. Sorry about that. Thought I'd get it quicker than I did. Yeah, so the Patoka Challenge, 24 guys already signed up for that event. That's going to be a fun one, guys. I mean, same thing here. We're getting ready to go into a warming trend. We got a full moon. These fish are going to want to move up at some point, and they're going to eat. In fact, we're seeing they're already eating today. 3 fish caught on Monroe. But if we look at West Boggs, we've got our boy Jim Strunk knocking it out of the park. Goodness, all of my links on Tournament Central are bad. So I got to update all that when I get off here, guys. I apologize for the live leaderboards. They're all messed up. But we look at West Boggs right now and check that out. Jim Strunk with an 18-incher, a 17 and a quarter, a 16 and a half, a 16 and a quarter, and a 15 and a quarter. Plenty of time left on his day. He's already upgraded 3 times. He's got 84.25 there at West Boggs. Guys, don't sleep on West Boggs anymore. It's been known as a small fish factory ever since they screwed it up a while back, and it's not anymore. I mean, we're seeing big fish caught out of there at decent quality at least, and it's a fun place to fish. So don't sleep on West Boggs. Get out there and fish it in the next grubby event if they have one. All right, and then also going on in grubby today, we got Raccoon and West Boggs. West Boggs doesn't have anyone fishing until Saturday, so we're going to skip that. But Raccoon does have a couple anglers fishing today. And we've got, I'll show you guys here. We've got Mason with 65 and a half, a 5-fish limit there at Raccoon. That's good to see a limit coming out of there early. His big bass is a 16 and a quarter. And then we got Timothy Ellis with a 19. He's looking to fill his limit. He needs 2 more. He's got plenty of time to do it. Check that out right there. 19-inch fish. It looks like he's in the Indiana Kayak Anglers Big Bass Hunt as well, with that sticker right there on the bump board. So he'll be uploading that to that tournament, which is great. And let's look at the Indiana Big Bass Hunt real quick and see what's going on. We still have Jeremiah Thompson in the lead with 38 3/4 inches, but Jim Nevins and Troy Riggins right behind him in the 38-inch mark. This is going to be fun to see how this starts playing out as people start hitting some smallmouth water. A lot of people only have a smallmouth or only have a largemouth. I myself am going to go try and hit some smallmouth water. I'm actually taking some time off starting tomorrow, which is why we won't have a podcast tonight and we won't have a podcast next week. I may try and do some go live stuff, but we won't have a podcast. So, and then real quick, before we move into my 2 topics that I wanted to address today, let's take a quick look at what's going on in SIAC with their month-long charity event for the Fallen Outdoors. A little over 30 anglers signed up for this event. And we've got Matt Kiefer leading the way with 100.5 inches so far. First person to break the century mark in this event. John Gittner right behind 97.5. Brian Sparks 96. Tyler Peters 93.25. Justin Staley, who I can tell you is done for the month because he's going to be out of the state for the rest of the month, I believe. He's done. He's sitting there in 5th place with 92.25. Still a lot of time left. The rest of this weekend and all of next week for guys to get in there. I'm sure we'll see a few more hit that century mark, and I think we'll have pretty impressive showing in this last week because we have this warming trend coming. We're going to see 70s and 80s in certain parts of the state in the next 3 to 4 days. Full moon, it should get these fish fired up and eating. I know last week there was a lot of bucks up shallow. Then we had the cold front. So I think it's going to happen. We'll see though. You know, I've been wrong many times so far this year. So no promises. All right, guys. And there's really 3 topics I want to talk about. So I'm going to start with one real quick. So I said early on I was going to talk about pro staffing or sponsorships. I was going to talk about catch photo release, question I get a lot about. I kind of want to bring a little bit of a warning to you guys. There's been something within the industry doing what I do and dealing with the people that I deal with that we've been talking about within the fishing industry as far as, you know, making fishing goods. There hasn't been a lot publicly said about it, but definitely if you work in the industry, you've known about it. It's a little bit more public now. In fact, Chad Hoover recently did a video on his YouTube channel about it. Go check that out after you've watched this. He doesn't go into too much detail, and I'm not going to either. But I definitely kind of want to warn you guys about something that's happening because it's going to impact all aspects of the outdoor. Well, it's really going to impact all aspects of your life, but definitely you're going to see and notice what's happening in the fishing industry. And you may already be seeing the effects of it. If you've been in a tackle shop lately or tried to order online lately, you're going to notice that there's a lot of empty peg hooks and a lot of stuff out of stock. Some items, they're not even telling you when they're going to get them back in stock. Some companies are just completely pulling them off their websites. And that is due to really a perfect storm that has happened. We're not going to get into any of the politics here. Please don't even put any of that in the comments. I don't even want to see it. But we're going to talk about what really is happening. And there is a huge shortage of supplies needed to make fishing products. The biggest one that's being talked about is the plastic shortage right now, or some people calling it the plastic crisis. This is a worldwide thing. Definitely the United States is really seeing the impacts of it because of the energy crisis in Texas, because of a plant burning down, because of other things impacting the oil industry, which we're not going to go into detail on. Plastics are difficult to make right now. No matter if it's plumbing for your home or a soft plastic bait, it's going to get very difficult because the supplies needed to make those products aren't available, or if they are, in very short supply. So you're going to see prices go way up, and you're going to see very limited options out there. So here's basically what I want to get at. Order what you want now. Like your favorite baits that you just, if you didn't have them in your boat, you would lose your mind. Order them now. Your fishing line, if you can afford to, order it in bulk now. I just did myself. Your reels, already really difficult to get any popular reel out there. Some of the imported, well, most reels are imported, but some of the other brands, not so popular brands, are still available. But like if you go to try and buy a Shimano reel right now, if it's in stock and you want it, you better pull the trigger, because you're talking June, August, maybe later. In fact, in most cases with Shimano, they're saying, hey, we don't even have an expected date for most of the more popular reel brands. So guys, if you need something in the fishing industry to get you through the season, buy it now. There's a lot out there. You can find some more information about this, but it's going to get very, very difficult. The other thing that's been difficult and becoming even more is hooks, certain model hooks. So companies are having a hard time manufacturing certain products and baits because hooks are hard to find. Mustad, owner, that sort of thing is getting difficult. And the other part of all this is not even the plastics, is just the import thing, right? So much of the fishing industry products are imported, and there's so many issues with that. Not only did we have this, ship that was blocking this canal, but just manpower alone has been, because of COVID, has put the whole thing, a chokehold on the whole thing. And so it's been an issue. It's something that we've been talking about within the back end of the business, if you will, for a while now. And it's starting to become public because, we were all kind of hoping it was like worst case scenario, but it's here. I mean, it's happening. Price of kayaks is going to continue to go up. It's going to get very difficult to find kayaks. Hopefully this is a 2021 problem, not a 2022, 2023 problem. But I don't want to spend too much time on it right now. Maybe we'll talk more about it later on, but just a warning, guys. And if you can afford to, buy what you need now, rather than buying it every season as it comes and you need it, order a few packs of your favorite baits, get your fishing line. If you're thinking about getting rods and reels, go ahead and get that. I mean, even rods have plastic products in them. They may be hard to get blanks down the road. So something to think about, guys. If you have any questions about that, feel free to message me or whatever. But Chad Hoover did a video on it recently. I came across that. And some other people are talking about it, obviously. And then you're starting to see the prices go up on stuff. But if you've been in a local tackle shop, their shelves are very light, or you're not seeing the products that you typically would. That's the good news here is, some people still have product and are still able to get it out. So you might be able to try some new stuff. So something to think about, guys. All right. Moving on. The other big question that I get a lot doing what I do and working in the industry, I get it here at Hoosier Kayak Bassin. I get it on my personal stuff and through some of the different companies that I work for, is the question about pro staffing and sponsorship. And this is really kind of a big topic here. So I'm going to talk about a little bit right now, and then if I get a good amount of feedback from it, I'll do a larger piece on this or podcast discussion on this. But question I get a lot is like, what is a good pro staffer and how do I get sponsored? So a couple things I want to talk about real quick. First, there's a lot of terms that are thrown out and people all have different meanings for them all. As a pro staff manager and someone who manages marketing and advertising for brands, here's my definition. So, you have ambassadors, you have field staff, you have pro staff, you have pro anglers, pro team. Those are just some of the main ones, right? Ambassadors, pro staff, field staff are all kind of the same thing, right? All of those things mean you're on a promotional team, not a pro angler team. You're on a promotional team. That's what pro stands for when it's abbreviated in pro staff. And you are really kind of a loyalty customer, right? Who represents the brand and is a returning customer on a regular basis. So you get a little bit of a discount. And in return for that little bit of a discount, you go out there and you promote the brand, or you wear their shirt, or you put their logo on your jersey or whatever, right? So there's that. And then you've got kind of like pro team or regional team. This is going to be typically those anglers who are a little bit more well-known, whether that be as a promoter or content creator on social media, or they just win a lot of tournaments and they get a lot of attention from that. And then you have like your true pro team, national team stuff. These are going to be your Kevin Van Dams, Michael Iconellis, Jacob Wheelers. In the kayak scene, a little bit different, right? You think about guys who are making a little bit of money at it. So those are kind of like the three tiers, right? So what makes you a good candidate for these things? Okay. So field staff ambassador, or pro staff. Generally speaking, every company runs a little bit different, right? But generally speaking, again, these are the companies, or these are the positions in which you get a discount. Maybe you get a discount code to share with people. Possibly you get a little bit of product, but not much. For these kinds of positions, really it just goes back to, you've purchased from the company, their product and your brand, you like it, you like to talk about it. It's a good entry level, right? This is where most people are. This is where most people are going to start, like 80%, maybe even higher, in my opinion. These discounts can range from 5% to 50%. Generally speaking, they're in the 15 to 20% range. What is needed in order for you to get that? Really not a lot. It's just that you, again, know the product, like the product, want to talk about the product. You're fairly clean cut dude. You don't have a lot of terrible things on social media, and you fish. That's really all it is. A lot of these companies you can apply to by just going to the website, and you can get these positions. But then the next level, right? Everybody wants this free product and the financial part of it, and that's hard to get. It's hard to get. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. You got to grind because it's a return on investment for the company. If they're going to give you free product or cut you a check of any amount, they need to know that they're going to get that back in return plus some, right? So like if I give you $100, I need to at least make $500 back, off of that, or have the potential to make that back, right? That would just be bad business to give away money and not expect in return. The problem is a lot of people don't have a social media following that can do that, or a presence in the industry that can do that. If you're not constantly winning big tournaments and having articles written about you, if you're not constantly pumping out YouTube videos that's getting thousands of views, or making posts that's getting hundreds of likes and comments and clicks on the links that you're putting out there, you probably really don't have a great way of returning that investment for a sponsor. So you're probably going to be at that field staff level. So what you have to do is you have to get there. And that can be grinding it out on the tournament season and winning, constantly placing, podium getting that first, second, third, getting your name out there. That's one way. Going to the national events and doing well, finishing top 10, tournament after tournament, getting recognized that way. That's one way. The other way is becoming a content creator, So you think about the top of the line content creators, right? Like Brandon Polinick, Tactical Bass, and Fluke Master. Some of these guys, right? You don't have to be there, but you need to be working towards that. So daily, you need to be putting out content, good content that people are engaging with, which is really important. And you need to be building that community around you that when you post something, people want to interact with it. And then furthermore, they want to go and get that product and try it because they know you're using it and it's working for you. If you're not interested in that and, you're not looking to be the next pro angler or you're not consistently finishing in the top, really the only thing that you can do at that point is just get in and make sales and then show that to the person the contact you have with that company. Like, hey, here's what I'm doing. I may not be Fluke Master. I may not be Kevin Van Dam, but I have a great group of guys around me and they buy product and here's some of the sales that I'm making. Working with local shops is a great way to do that. So those are just some of the experiences that I've had. And then obviously, if you're watching this, you're probably not the top guy, right? Who's got all of the paying sponsors and getting thousands of dollars in. But to get to that level, and everyone wants this, and this is something I see a lot. I have guys who literally will apply for staff positions and reach out and their only pitch is, I love fishing. I fish every day. I talk to a bunch of people about fishing. And then they want hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars in products or cash sponsorships. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it's not. There's no return on investment. You should love fishing if you're applying for a pro staff position. That's a given. You don't even have to say that. That I assume, and anyone else that does this assumes, if you're applying for a pro staff position with a bass fishing company, that makes a product for bass fishing, we assume you love fishing. Why else would you want to be a pro staff or be sponsored? You don't have to say that. What you do have to talk about, though, is how you can impact the business, either through social media marketing or by your presence on the tournament scenes and within the local groups or regional groups or nationally. Again, I'll go into this in detail maybe in another podcast. If this is something that interests you guys and you'd like to talk about, please let me know. But I just want to talk about that real quick. So what do you need to do in order to start somewhere, grind and hustle? There's no alternative to that, really. Some guys get lucky and get big deals. But for most anglers out there, and I've done it from all levels, guys, from the bass boat side as an angler to now a kayak fisherman as an angler and someone who manages the marketing and pro staff for companies. So I've seen it from all levels. There's really no alternate route than just putting in the work. And that can be hard to do, especially when you're focused on fishing and not creating content. It can be hard to do. So it's something that you have to work at. All right, guys, that's enough on that. Unless anybody watching has a quick question, I'll be happy to answer it for you before we move on to the next subject. So, oops. Don't know what happened there. You guys got me? Okay. All right. Like everything went away on my screen. So next topic is catch, photo, release. I get these questions a lot from, surprisingly, not just new people to the sport. I think a lot of people get into the sport and just kind of do their thing. And then at some point they realize there's maybe a better way and they ask this question. I probably get this question more from like 2 and 3 year guys than I do from 1 year guys. And I'm gonna say this is my process that I've developed over the years. I'm not saying that this is the best process. You have to figure out what works for you and what works in your kayak and your setup. But in the 2 kayaks that I've tournament fished, both the Bonafide SS127 and the Native Slayer Max 12.5 Propel, this was my system. And I think this works pretty universally for most of you. The caveat would be maybe like a sit inside kayak, you wouldn't be able to do what I'm going to talk about. So catch, photo, release actually starts before you ever get on the water though. And that starts with making sure you have the right identifier code, the right token or ID card, and the right system and setup in place for when you do catch a fish to be ready to capture a great photo and submit that fish correctly. I've made my own mistakes, especially within the Grassroots Bass Yakking series, just because I fished so many of them and it's a little bit different. I've just made, and it's my fault, not Grassroots Bass Yakking. They have a great way that they do set up everything. It's just been my mistake because it's a little bit outside of my typical tournament process. So let me share with you what I do. Most tournaments will give you your ID code the night before the tournament, either at a captain's meeting, a live meeting, or just via the TourneyX app. One thing you have to do is make sure you get that code right. Some tournaments use 3 numbers or letters. Some use 4, some use 5. Some put out their own. Some use the generated one through the app. You have to figure that out, right? The other thing you have to do prior to ever getting on the water is make sure you read and understand the rules. They are pretty much universal. Most series in the state of Indiana are using kayak bass fishing rules, but almost every series has some alternates to that, right? Some provisions to that, if you will. I don't think I'm using the right word there, but they make slight changes for their series. For example, Grassroots Bass Yakking, they don't have a size limit. Most tournament series who run off KBF rules go off at 12. Some go 14 inches. So that's the first thing you got to do. You got to look at the rules and, make sure that you're following them for each series that you're fishing. This can be a little bit of a, it can be a little bit of a hassle because there's so many different series that you're potentially fishing. But most of the rules are pretty straightforward. Okay, so you know the rules and you have the right identifier token or numbers or letters and numbers, right? Then you got to make sure you have the right identifier card, which is the actual ID. So let's pull up real quick since I have this up. Let's pull up Tyler's 18-inch fish here. So this section right here that I'm hovering around with my mouse, hopefully you guys can see that on your end. That is the KBF identifier. This is kind of the gold standard. Like a lot of clubs and series allow this identifier. That's what you put your ID code on, right? So you want to make sure that that's visible and legible. If you don't have good handwriting, ask the girlfriend, ask the wife, or a buddy at the ramp who does, because that can get you in a lot of trouble. You want to make that look almost identical to what they send out as possible. Double, triple, quadruple check that the night before the tournament, the morning of the tournament. Some series you don't have to use a card. You can write it on your hand. You can write it on a banana. You can write it on your boot. It doesn't matter as long as that code is somewhere in the picture. I would tell you, get the KBF identifiers, print them off because most series use that or allow it. Some, because of sponsorships and other things, they want you to use theirs. Make sure you know that. All right, so we got all that, right? So we know the rules. We understand what we have to have in our picture for our ID identifier. And we've got it all written out. We've double checked it. We're on the water now and ready to fish. So here is my process. I catch my fish and I bring it in and I net it. If you don't use a net and you lip your fish, I would still have a net in the boat for the next steps. Okay, so I've got my fish in the boat. I've got it in the net. I am then going to take my board and I'm going to dunk it in the water, my catch board, right? Or if you're using the carbonate, or some series allow the hog trough. I don't know why you would even use it, but some series still allow it. So anyway, take your measuring device for whatever series you're using, dip that in the water. Reason for that is it will temperature that board. It will make that fish settle down a little bit more than if you were to put them on a scalding hot board or a very cold board. So that's step one. Wild fish is in the net, staying calm, chilled out. Step number two is I'm going to actually take the hook out of that fish's mouth. And I'm going to lip it and I'm going to put it on the board. Okay. And I'm going to get her set up and then I'm going to grab my phone and take a quick picture. Now I have my phone set up to where I just hit a button, right? That's all I have to do. I don't have to pull up the camera app or anything. It just unlocks with my face and I hit a button. If you don't have that, here's what I would do. Before taking that fish out of the net, I would get my phone camera set up and ready, and then I would set it in a pocket or something securely. Put that fish on the board, and then this is where I see a lot of people go wrong. They take 1 or 2 photos with their hand on the fish. Here's what I would do, or here's what I do. Put my fish on the board. I put my hand in the best placement I think to not get me a penalty for anything, like anywhere by the gill, not covering the eye, not anywhere down by the tail, like center of the body. Okay. Not necessarily the best hand position for length, the best hand position to get my fish to be submitted and counted. So I take that picture, right? Boom, I've got it. Verify that I've got it. Okay. Now my second picture I'm going to take is going to be me putting my hand in the position or holding the fish in the position I think gives me the most length. Okay. So that could be, holding it around the girth of it. That could be, holding it up more towards the head to make sure that the mouth is closed. That could be holding it down by the tail, right? So these are the positions in which are going to give you the more length, but are more likely, depending on the judge, to get you a DQ or a deduction. The good thing is, if for some reason you do get a deduction or a DQ, you can submit the photo you took previously where there's no issue. Finally, after I'll take a couple of those, by the way, in just different positions to make sure especially if it's close. Finally, once I'm done with that, I usually will dunk that fish in the water because it's been a minute or so and give her a nice break and make sure she's healthy, put her back on the board. And I'm going to take a fisher with my hand not even in the picture, not at all. Again, for the same reason, just to avoid any possibility of deductions or DQs for my hand placement. Once that's done, I'm putting that fish back in the net, back in the water, and I'm looking through all of those photos to make sure, and I'm going to do basically a 4-point check here. One, that my entire board from the fence to wherever that fish ends is in the picture, so there's no confusion there. Secondly, to make sure that my identifier code is correct and is visible without any glare, without any problem, right? I like to check it without even zooming in because then I know if they do zoom in, it is definitely good. The other thing, so there's the first two. Third one is hand position. So making sure that I'm set there. And then the final one, obviously being that I've gotten the max length out of that fish. That is my process, right? Once I say, okay, it's good, I will submit that fish or, put that fish in my favorites if I'm submitting them later. and I will take my fish selfie and release that fish and let her go. If there is any issues with like a dead eye, so if that fish has a dead eye or has a pale color or just doesn't look right, doesn't look healthy, you can actually get a DQ for submitting a dead fish or questions about that. So if you have a fish like that, what I like to do is just take a quick video, right? And, show the fish, release the fish, show the fish, going away live. That way, if there's any questions, I can do that. If it's a dead eye, I automatically will send it to the tournament director, the video, just to avoid that possibly coming up. So there's my process, guys. That's what I tell everyone as far as that goes. Now, the only thing that I didn't mention is board placement. So here's a couple things for you guys. And this is going to vary dependent on kayak. If you can lay your board completely flat, that is always best. If you can lay your board on the floor of your kayak rather than in your lap, always best. I always put a net at the front of, let me just show you guys. Let me go to a tournament that I've recently fished in. Let's see. So Summit Lake. I fished in Summit Lake. Okay. So let's show you this. All right. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. So you'll notice that in this picture, I've got my identifier card there. My numbers are easily visible. My board is as flat as it can be on my particular kayak. And then I have my net, my board in my net. So my net is standing up vertically right now or slanted slightly. And my board is in my net. So if this fish jumps, I actually have my foot behind the net. And if this fish jumps for whatever reason, not only do I have my hands free to reach for it, but I can kick my foot over and kick this net on top of this fish so it doesn't jump out. I have rarely ever, since doing this, lost a fish. I can think of maybe once I lost a fish, and it was because I just fumbled really, really bad. So this is why I said, even if you don't use a net to land your fish, having a net in your kayak to avoid the possibility of that fish jumping is the best thing you can do for yourself. Now, in this particular picture, you will see the fence isn't completely in this picture, but I have 3 other pictures of this fish where it is, if that were a problem in this series. Or maybe it is and it's just cut off. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. All right, guys. So that's the process that I use. If you have any questions about that, let me know. The other thing is, if you don't have a kayak where you can set that board flat, and you're going to, like, so in the Slayer, it was somewhat difficult to do. When you're trying to keep that fish down low so that if it jumps, it doesn't go over the side, you want to keep it low in your kayak, right? Your board might sometimes be at an angle, and that probably isn't always the best position for you to get the full amount of length. So what I would do in that situation in my Slayer, I would take a picture like that of it at an angle. Once I had that where I wanted it, then I would bring it up and set it up flat across the gunnels of the kayak or on my lap and take a picture there. I would never start with taking a picture on your lap. You are guaranteed to lose a lot of fish doing it that way, especially certain times of the year on certain bodies of water where those fish are way more likely to jump than others. So yeah, that's my process. If you guys have any questions about anything I've talked about so far, or any questions in general about the bodies of water here, the series here, pro staffing, sponsorships, or my catch photo release process, please go ahead and put those in the comments. If you're watching this after the fact, you're not watching live, still send me a message or an email or text me or something, and I'm happy to help. I'm going to do a video. I hope to do a video soon enough of me actually going through this process and talking about it. But I do get this question a ton. And I just wanted to quickly touch base on that today, along with these other topics. As far as the actual photo submission, I think it's always best to go ahead and submit your photo right away, because you can have a lot of variables when you don't do that. And those are usually user error variables. So when you don't submit your fish right away, it's possible that you submit the wrong fish. It's possible that you submit the same fish twice. A lot of different things can happen. So always submit those photos as soon as you can. Now, in the instance where, a couple instances where you wouldn't do that, right? So you don't have signal, or if you're fishing a school of fish, or it's a morning bite thing, and you know after a certain time you're not going to get bit, or less likely to get bit, then yeah, I understand holding off, right? Especially if you don't have signal, you can't submit the fish. So what I like to do in those instances is just quickly look at my fish, and I will favorite or heart or whatever your phone allows you to do that fish picture, so that when I do go back to submit later on, I don't have to look through all of them. I can just hit those favorites. And you can move those into folders. You can put those into notes. Like, you can do a lot of different things there. But my process is I just leave them in my camera roll and favorite them. Now, another thing that I do in those instances where I'm not submitting those fish right away is I will, after every fish, so I've taken all those photos, I've taken that fish selfie, you know what I'm talking about? I will take a picture of my hand. I will just put my camera real close, take a picture of my hand, and that lets me know that's the break, or that's the new page, right? So everything before that was fish 1, everything after that's fish 2, everything after that's fish. The next hand photo is fish 3. That's my process. You could do it of anything, a black screen, your fish finder, take a screenshot of the time, whatever you want to do. That's my process though. Austin saying, take a scenery pic. Just do something that allows you to know the difference, because let's say you get on a school of 14 and a half inches. Trust me, I've done it several times. It can be difficult, even if the timestamp, right? Like, you look at the timestamp and you caught one at 9:32, took your photo, and then you make a cast and catch another one, take a photo at 9:33. Like, it can get difficult. And some of those fish don't have enough marks to really set them apart. Plus, it takes you time. That's the biggest thing in tournaments, right? It's time. You want to have your bait in the water as much as you possibly can. You don't have to be sitting there fumbling through trying to figure out your photos. So just take a scenery pic, take a picture of your hand, take a picture of your the bottom of your kayak floor, something that lets you know, hey, I'm on to my next fish here. So another point there about catch, photo, release. Hopefully that helps you guys. But yeah, guys, just kind of informal talking to you about some different things, since we're not going to have a live podcast tonight or next week. So again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to throw those up there. My goodness, guys, they are just tearing them up out here at Lake Fork. I mean, it's nuts. Patrick Walters has 2 7-pounders, an 8-pounder, a 4-pounder, and a 5-pounder for a total of 32 pounds, 14 ounces. Crazy stuff. Let's check in on West Boggs. Let's see how Jim's doing. We'll see if any questions pop in while I'm doing this, and then we'll kind of wrap this thing up here for you guys. Checking in on the leaderboards as we're getting into that last 30 minutes of the day for these tournaments, most of them ending at 3 o'clock. Jim Strunk still sitting with 84.25, anchored by an 18-inch fish down there at West Boggs. Awesome job. Jim's having a hell of a week, doing really well fishing. Did great up there at Lake St. Clair. Let's check in on Raccoon real quick. and we got 65.5 inches, no changes there. I'm sure this high winds that we have are probably slowing things down a little bit. 16.25, 14.25, 11.5 going on there. And then Monroe, let's check in on Monroe. Oh, sorry, that was Mason McCollum, I think. I could be saying that wrong. Sorry, Mason. And no updates at Monroe either. Tyler with 3 fish, 46.25. Troy Riggins, 0 on the board. Maybe he has some fish and hasn't been able to submit them yet. I don't know. I do expect Monroe to be tough today and tomorrow. And I think Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it starts to pick up a little bit. But I will say this, guys. If you guys are hesitant to get out in the morning right now because it's been cold, change your mindset. I hate the cold. I don't want to be out there, but I don't not go because of the fishing. Right now, that morning bite can be really, really good on any lake you go to that I've been on throughout the state. I mean, that first hour of light has been very good, even on the rough days. So the wind's been just outrageous this year. I mean, it seems like 5 out of 7 days we've got 20 to 30 mile an hour gusts in the afternoons. Absolutely crazy. So, and that can be a difficult thing in a kayak, especially if you don't have a trolling motor or pedal drive. And even with those things, that still is very, very difficult to position yourself in order to catch these fish. The good thing is it's going to make you a better angler. It's going to push you to learn and to fish in that wind, cast in that wind. So don't avoid it because fishing can still be good. In fact, the wind can help position these fish for you as well. Austin saying Summit morning bite was crucial for the first few days of the tournament. Yeah, absolutely. Your bait activity is what's causing that, right? That bait getting active in the morning, these fish always want to feed up before they go to spawn. And so what's happening is, what I think is happening, right, is you have these warming trends where these fish start thinking about moving up. And so they've got to feed. And those are the days where we see guys catching a lot of fish and big fish. And then a cold front comes down and it pushes them back. And they got to maintain that energy some way. So when this bait gets active in the morning, and it's going to, it doesn't matter what the temperature is, it's going to be active. These fish are feeding. And so that's why that morning bite is so crucial. And then as the day wears on, I think these fish are just, because of the fluctuation in water temperatures and weather, these fish are just kind of being a little bit stagnant and stingy. Again, it varies depending on the lake and part of the state that you're in. And I'll talk about this real quick. Another thing that comes up a lot that I see and I talk to a lot of people about is water temperature. I don't think the water temperature or air temperature plays as much of an impact as we think it does, especially air temperature. This time of year, typically your surface temperature on the water is similar to your air temperature in the midday to the afternoon. But you get 2-3 feet down, it's not fluctuating as much. I promise you, when you're reading 55 in the morning and 65 in the evening, that's your surface temperature. It's not changing that much 2, 3, 4 feet down, right? So those fish that are up on the bank, they're not feeling that change. What they are noticing is the moon phase. They are noticing the longer days. That's a big thing for them. And that bait activity, what that bait's doing. I think a thing what we talked about, I've heard the old timers talk about growing up fishing was what we call the mustard flowers. I don't know what the true name for them is. Those yellow, big, thick green stalks, and they got the yellow balls of flowers on them. Anytime those come up, the fish go to the bank, right? Especially if the water's flooding into those. And I'm starting to see those pop up. So I'm going with that. I'm going to say the fish are going to move up because the mustard flowers are coming up now all around Patoka Lake, which is exciting. But that could be, there could be nothing to that. I don't know. That's just what I've always been told, and I've always believed in it. So I go with it. All right, guys, I don't see any questions coming in, so I'm going to wrap this thing up with talking about what we got going on in the state this weekend and next week, since we're not going to have a go live. Upcoming events we've got right now: Bluegrass, Monroe, Raccoon, West Boggs. I'll get the Tourney X leaderboard stuff updated on HoosierKayakRacing.com for that. But this weekend we've got SIAC on Patoka, their first live event of the year. Going to be a great event. Over 20 anglers signed up already. Got an opportunity to fish for a Bino Power battery for Angler of the Year. 100 amp hour battery with charger, by the way. Just huge package right there. Plus, they got some other stuff I know they're going to be announcing shortly. A lot of stuff for the championship. And then for the Patoka event, specifically, is sponsored by Shady Rays. So they're giving away 6 pairs of sunglasses, 3. 1 pair each to the top 3, and then they're going to give 3 random away. So just for signing up, you got a chance to win some awesome sunglasses there. And then you've got, following that up, next week you have Niona kicks off. So our northernmost series for Grassroots Bass Yakking kicks off next week on the 29th and runs through May 3rd. With that, you also have Brookville that same week as well. And then May 1st is the second IKA event. Some of us would like to think it's the first IKA event because the first one was on Monroe and it was terrible. Everyone wants to wipe and forget that one except for Drew Duncan, who won that event. But no one else wants that event to stay. So IKA is going to be on Lake Wawasee. Up there in northern Indiana. So great opportunity for you guys to fish a couple events not terribly far from each other. You know, maybe you live in the southern central part like I do. You don't go up north much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up, I'm going to fish Niona, then go over and practice and fish Lake Wawasee. You can do the opposite of that. Go up, practice for Lake Wawasee, fish Lake Wawasee with IKA, fish Niona on the way back home the next day. Something like that. Great opportunity for you guys to maybe try out some new lakes and a new series. So think about that. We also have May 1st starts the charity event for Cash Hicks. If you guys haven't seen our last podcast, we talked about that. It's been posted all over the place. It's on Tourney X under Grassroots Bass Yakking, or you can type in Cash Hicks in the search and you'll on Tourney X and you'll find it. $35 entry fee, proceeds of that going to help support Cash in his battle with cancer, second go around, and Dad's laid off work and everything. Really tough time for that family. They're going to get through it. I have faith that they will, but we're trying to support them and help them out the best we can through this event. Though there's not a payout, there is amazing prizes being put up. Probably bigger than what the payout would be. It's a national event. It's a month long. Make sure to check that out. Get signed up. Tell a friend about it. Even if you don't think you're going to fish a lot in May, get signed up for that event if you can. Also starting May 1st is Mayhem, KBF Mayhem. They are doing all of their typical stuff, right? You're going to have trail series events, challenge series events, weekends, the night nocturnal events. But everything is 50% of the field will qualify. The top 50% of the field will qualify for 2021 KBF National Championship, which obviously is an amazing experience and huge payout for the anglers that get to be involved in that. Typically, I think you have to be in the top 10%. I might be slightly off on that. It's hard for me to keep track of all of these different ones that we cover, but I believe it's top 10% typically. Or would get that. So you have a way better shot. So if you're not a KBF member, go get your membership. You'll get back what you pay in the membership tenfold with gift cards and discounts and all types of stuff. So make sure to check that out. And then you've got the month long. You got to be signed up by the end of April for that. That event is starts May 1st. You got to be signed up by the end of the month for the month long, and then you'll see the other challenge series events out there with the nocturnal night event and the weekend events that they're going to do. So check those out, guys. Hopefully I'm not missing anything. I'll put up an upcoming events deal next week, and I will I'll talk to you guys all soon unless there's any questions here. Justin's going to be out of state, and I know you're going to have a good time down there. But yeah, I think this is going to be the weekend we see things really start to turn around here in the state on most of these bodies of water. Full moon, warming trend coming. I mean, these fish are ready to pop. Zach Martin jumping in. Thanks. Found this helpful since I'm trying to figure the rhythm out. Yeah, man. I'm glad you got something from this. That is a big part of it, is just getting into a process, into a rhythm, understanding what works best for you from before you launch the boat to the time you take it out. And furthermore on that, I would just continue to work on organization and processes from everything, from how you set up your truck and trailer to go to an event, your tackle organization, all of that. If you're wanting to be really serious about tournament fishing, if you're just going out to have a good time, this doesn't really necessarily apply. Just do whatever causes you the least amount of stress and makes it as fun as possible for you. But if you want to truly be competitive and you're talking about, I want to make AOI runs and I want to progress in the sport and go from the local stuff to the regional stuff to the national stuff, the best thing that I can tell you is to put together processes and organization that will keep you cool, calm, and collected on the water, not stressed out, not aggravated, not irritated, and focused on fishing, and then also reduces the amount of time you spend on unnecessary things, changing tackle, not tying, your catch, photo, release process, all of those things. You want to reduce the amount of time you're doing those things so that you can get your bait in the water, keep it in the water as long as possible, and stay focused on what that bait's doing in that next bite. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you. Hopefully this is helpful. I've been on here for about an hour. 10 minutes. I said it'd be less than an hour, so always running over, but it's been good. Hopefully you got something from this. Please like, comment, share, give us a follow, check us out, HoosierKayakBassin.com. I'm going to go in and update the live leaderboards and add the SIAC one right now for you guys. So that's all correct. Sorry for the issues with that. More cast equals more fish. That's Justin staying right there. Couldn't agree more. All right, guys, be good. We'll see you soon. And if you guys need anything, you know how to get a hold of me. Appreciate you all so much. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.